to episode 2 of Is It Worth It? And today I'm going to be analyzing American Horror Story because the next season is coming out this September, and so I want to let you guys know if you should start watching the previous seasons so you can catch up before this new one. And so it's all called American Horror Story, but they're all separate seasons that are standalone stories each time. So I'm going to go through season by season so that you know what you can watch, what you should watch, and things you can probably skip. So it starts off season 1, American Horror Story Murder House. And this one, the plot has to do with a house and people die there, their spirits are stuck, and so they still live there, dead. So it's spirits, has some religious stuff in there. It's dealing with some horrors and hidden things from times in the past, and that's kind of a common theme within the American Horror Story series. Echoes from the past, I would say. It was met with great success, of course, and cult following, just because it was very fresh and different from what's usually on television at the time, so it was very different. I think this season was the most culturally relevant, because I was talking about school shootings at a time when that's obviously a big issue. And in general, this was the most coherent season, just because the storyline stayed from the beginning to the end, and it stayed generally pretty strong throughout it, unlike other seasons, and that becomes an issue, but I think this one is something you definitely should check out, especially getting started. It's a perfect opener into what American Horror Story is. I don't find it scary, but some people found this season scary, and I will say it's pretty gory. As with all of the seasons, it's just how this series is, and so that's something to consider. Then we have season 2, American Horror Story Asylum, and it takes place in an asylum. I think this season is what really started the big, unknown, scary stuff that American Horror Story is known for. I mean, obviously that kind of started in the first season, but this season it really made the name for American Horror Story on what it is. This is one of the most popular seasons. It's probably the most popular one, just because it has a lot of interesting things going on. It talks about various things because, as I was saying earlier, the plots can be kind of weak. I would say a thing for this show in general, it has a good concept that can't be fully realized. So it starts off really strong. This is every season. Starts off really strong, and then it's like they didn't know what else to do with it, and so by the end it's like, what? This one can be that I find it to be kind of messy, just because it has a lot of different storylines and plots going on at the same time, which I think is what attracts many people for this one, just because it's like, there's always something going on, but I also think it's kind of like, they had ideas for 3 short things, and so they just stuck them all together. And so that's what made this season. Is dealing with Asylum, religion again, aliens, which gets kind of weird. Of course, this one's worth checking out, definitely. It's a very strong season. You may or may not be disappointed by the end. It was lackluster to me, but overall the season is still really good. The next season is American Horror Story Coven. And so this one's all about witches. And so this is set in New Orleans, Louisiana, and so it has that kind of feel. It's dealing with voodoo and rivalry and stuff like that. So it gets has a variety of powers displayed and some uniqueness to each person, but it's still, I think, coherent in the universe building, unlike some others. This one is also a very popular season. I think it's tied for top season for me, just because it's so interesting and I love magic and things like that, fantasy. But some criticisms, this is a kind of predictable season. The point of the season is to find the new Supreme, which is the leader of the Coven, and so I don't want to spoil anything, but they have one, and then they find out that someone else is new and up and coming, but they don't know who it is. And so that's basically the point of this season. It is very interesting. I would say it does kind of fall into we had a great idea at first, and then we kind of lost ideas on what to do with it. But overall, I think this is still worth checking out, especially if you're into magics and fantasy. And the next season, American Horror Story Freak Show. Now this is a very infamous one. It was Jessica Lange's last season. Jessica Lange is usually the lead, or sort of lead, in each of the seasons, and she was a big pull to this show. And then this is her last season, and so people wanted to see this very bad. And this has many flaws, unfortunately. I mean, it's still good. It has good qualities, but it falls into many of its own traps, many of its own downfalls. It had an awesome concept and villain going on. It was something very scary because it was a clown. Tons of people are scared of clowns. And so it had something really strong going for it. It was getting pretty deep and detailed, new characters that were like legitimately horrifying just because it's something so realistic. And, you know, there's a whole message of freak show, who's the freak, you know, kind of thing. But the problem is the main premise ends before the season is over. And of course, I'm trying not to spoil anything, but the whole point of it just kind of changes in the middle, because you have your main villain and then it changes to a different story almost. I mean, the people and the stuff is the same and all the subplots are still going on, but it's like, wait a second, you were selling this to us and then you just changed it. So it definitely felt like they didn't know how to prolong it, they didn't know where to go for it. So like it would have made a good short film, but then they were like, oh, we have 10 more episodes to fill, we don't know what to do. And it definitely fell into that. Lots of parts of it just... I mean, the actors are always doing good jobs, they're all doing fantastic work, but unfortunately what they had to work with wasn't the best. It had a good CGI, a lot of interesting work in there, but unfortunately it's not the best season. It was definitely the worst. I mean, no contest. I mean, if you want to skip a season, you could skip that one, unfortunately. And the most recent season is Season 5, American Horror Story Hotel. And since Jessica Lange was gone for this, people are always wondering, well, who's gonna be her replacement? And I wouldn't say it's a replacement, but the new big head honcho was Lady Gaga. And so everyone was kind of like, how is that gonna work out? But I think it definitely turned out, especially without her. I mean, of course, Jessica Lange is great, and she puts so much to American Horror Story, but I will say that she and many of the other actors kind of get recast in the same kind of roles. And so, yeah, she was doing great, but it was just the same thing over and over again. No fault to her, but she was just cast as the same character. And so not having her here actually makes it more fresh. I think all the characters actually got something more unique instead of the same old in this season. Hotel, the premise is a hotel. I mean, this one feels a lot like the older seasons, which people like, but I think it's also because kind of the premise is kind of the older seasons, and it deals with the hotel, people die there and their ghosts are stuck, so it kind of says murder house to me, you know? Technically, it's kind of an old plot, but it is rehashed in a new way that is interesting, and then you deal with vampires. Yeah. I mean, in this current time, it's kind of like an old, worn-out topic, but I think it's handled in a classy way that is the way things used to be handled for vampires, because the way they're seen now is a lot different, but I think this is a much more classic version of them. Of course, there's murder going on, as usual. It has a very interesting and nice aesthetic to it. It's very visually appealing. I think in this one, you loved the characters a lot more. There was a lot more going on in relationship that isn't always there in other seasons, unfortunately. And I would say that by the end, you really do end up loving these characters and you are attached to what they're doing. And that's something that works for it. This season really has something going for it. It's because you want to care about these people, you want to care about the plot, and the plot definitely works to make you feel that way. The acting, of course, is good. This is a season worth watching. I would say this is my other tie for top season, just because it's like taking the older seasons, kind of refreshing them, combining them, and then making it better. This is definitely one you would want to watch if you want to catch up on seasons. And so looking at all the seasons that we've talked about, if you want to watch them all, watch them all. If you want to skip one freak show, you can skip. If you're looking for just one to watch, I would say probably Hotel, because it has the feeling of all the other ones put together. If you're just looking kind of an intro, Murder House, of course, it's the first one. It's going to give you the best kind of introduction into what American Horror Story is. We'll see what happens next season. We don't know what the theme is right now, but I think we'll find out soon enough. I hope it's something new in terms of plot, because we're seeing kind of repetitive works a little bit, and I really hope that season can actually not fall victim to I have a good idea for 5 episodes, and then it kind of lingers on. But otherwise, I think American Horror Story is worth getting into in general. You can look at season by season, decide what you want, or if you even want to watch them at all, because it is a very gory show. It handles some tough topics. If that is something you don't like, I wouldn't recommend watching it, because it might be too much, and you probably won't like it. But otherwise, take a look, see what you think. I think it's worth getting into. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and if you still aren't sure, try watching a few episodes or a season or two, and tell me what you think then. If you have any other ideas of something you want to suggest me to review and decide if it's worth spending your time, money, or effort on, just let me know in the comments, and I might make a video for it. Thank you.